Hello, we are going to do our chapter 5, day 3, and this is our 5.2 lesson. It is over using linear equations in slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form, that should sound very familiar. That is our y equals mx plus b form, and that is something that should be familiar. If it is not, I would like you to go ahead and pause this video and try to find some information about that so you have the background knowledge necessary to be successful today. So for your warm-up, it's just any questions from last night's homework. So if you have any questions from last night's homework, we really need you to have the background knowledge of that in order to be successful today. So definitely go ahead and pause this and ask your teacher. Your learning goal today is to find the equation of a line given 2 points. That is your learning goal, and that is what we are working towards today. Going with our example, so we want to be able to write an equation given the slope and a point. So they're going to give us a slope and a point. So let's read the problem. It says, write an equation of a line that passes through the point 8, -4, and has a slope of -3/4. So these are the pieces of information that we know. So let's go ahead and start trying to build our equation with the information that we have. We know that our equation, we have y equals mx plus b. We know our m is our slope, and our b is our y-intercept. We do know the slope based on our problem. It tells us that the slope here is -3/4. So we're going to use that to start building our equation, and then I will tell you why the point is relevant. So let's go ahead and write what we know in this notation. So we have y equals m, which is -3/4, x plus b. We don't know b yet, so we can't fill that in. So how are we going to figure out b? Well, we don't know b, and the only thing that we have is this point to use. And we know that points are written in x, y form. So we are going to use those two values for our x and our y values, and we are going to substitute them into our equation. So that is our steps. So we are going to go ahead and substitute x, y, our coordinate for our point, into the equation to solve for b. So I'm going to show you how you would substitute those values in. So instead of y, now we have -4. We still have equals -3/4. And instead of x, now we have 8 plus b. Okay. So we need to go ahead and solve for b. So we have -4 equals, we know this -3/4 times 8 is what we need to solve. I usually just go over to the side. So we need to do -3/4 times 8 over 1. -3 times 8 is -24. 4 times 1 is 4. -24 divided by 4 is -6. So that is -6 plus b. Okay. And then in order to get b all by itself, we need to add 6 to both sides. -4 plus 6 is 2, and that is our b value. So now we have our b value, which is our y-intercept of 2. Using this information that we have now, we can go ahead and write our final equation that it's asking for. So we have y equals -3/4 x plus 2. That would be your final answer. So here, the main thing, the new part of this is using that xy coordinate to solve for b. And that is a skill that you will definitely need today. All right, example 2. So this one, they want us to write an equation given 2 points. So this is moving towards that learning goal. So if you look at this, it's saying write the equation of a line that passes through these 2 points. We have 10 and -5 and -5 and 1. So they give us 2 points, and we need to find our slope-intercept form. Again, we know that our slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. So we need to figure out what m equals, and we need to figure out what b equals. Do we have either of those pieces of information? No, we do not. And some of you guys might be jumping to, well, we just plug in the points and solve. Well, we don't have this m yet. We have to get the m before we can solve for b. So think about a way that you could take 2 points and solve for slope. Well, we know that we can take 2 points and we can say that for slope, we have our y sub 2 value minus our y sub 1 value over our x sub 2 value minus our x sub 1 value. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and use our 2 points. We need to label them x sub 1 and y sub 1 and x sub 2 and y sub 2. I'm going to start with this one over here. So I have my x sub 1 and my y sub 1 and my x sub 2 and my y sub 2. Just as a reminder that x sub 1, that 1 doesn't really mean anything. It is just labeling that point as, hey, here's my first set of points, and then here is my second set of points, and differentiating between those two things. So our y sub 2 is 1 minus our y sub 1, which is negative 5, over x sub 2, which is negative 5, minus our x sub 1, which is 10. If we go ahead and solve this, guys, I'm going to go ahead and erase this actually and put it on top so it's not in my way. So we have our 1 minus negative 5. We know that those are going to turn into a positive. So 1 plus 5 is 6. Negative 5 minus 10 is negative 15. We can go ahead and reduce this by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. So here we have our slope. Now that we have our slope, we can go ahead and do what we did above. So we can write our equation y equals m, which is now negative 2/5 x plus b. We don't know our b. We have to solve for that. So again, we are going to pick a point and plug it in to this equation to solve for b. It does not matter which point you substitute. It does not matter. I generally pick the one with the smaller numbers. That's generally what I do. You do not have to do that. You could pick either point. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to substitute negative 5, 1. That is my x and my y value. So using that equation, instead of y, now I have 1. Then I have negative 2/5. Instead of x, now I have negative 5 plus b. So again, we're just solving for our b value. This fraction equation, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to solve it to the side. So negative 2/5 times negative 5 over 1. A trick here that we didn't do last time is we could cross cancel. So 2 and 1 we can't do anything with, but negative 5 and 5 we could. So 5 we could divide by 5 and get 1. Negative 5 we could divide by 5 and get negative 1. So multiplying straight across, we have negative 2 times negative 1, which is positive 2. And then on the bottom, we have 1 times 1, which doesn't change anything. So that equals 2. So this whole part right here is 2. So we have 1 equals 2 plus b. Now, and to solve for b, subtract 2 from both sides, we get negative 1 equals b. Okay. So now that we know our b value, we can go ahead and write our equation. So I'm going to come down here and write it. So I have y equals, our m value is negative 2/5 x plus b, and it's negative 1, so I'm going to go ahead and say minus 1. That is our final equation. Notice how my y and my x are no longer negative 5 and 1. We want to make sure that we take those back and put them into y and x. Those are not normally substituted in our equation. So we need to keep it in that y equals mx plus b form. All right, this next example, it says which function has the values f of negative 2 equals 15 and f of negative 1 equals 9. Guys, that f means function. That f means function, and we know that functions are just graphs of lines, just like they are in y equals mx plus b. I know in our last unit we saw function being written as like f of x equals something. This is exactly what that's saying. So f of x, we know, is just a fancy way of saying y equals. So this whole thing equals y, and that inside, that is our x. And this whole thing, f of negative 2, the function of negative 2 is our y value. So if y equals 15, we know that this is our y value. So those are just really making coordinates, you guys. So then this one is our x, 9 is our y. That is just a coordinate. So now we're in the same boat as we were in the last problem. So we need to find slope and find y-intercept. And then we'll be able to write our equation. So for slope, again, we have our x sub 1 and our y sub 1, our x sub 2 and our y sub 2. We do y sub 2, which is 9, minus our y sub 1, which is 15, over our x sub 2, which is 1, minus x sub 1, which is negative 2. If we simplify this, we get negative 6. This turns into plus negative 6 over 3, which is negative 2. So our slope is negative 2. This is helpful for us because now we can start writing our equation. Since it is asking for function, we want it in this f of x form. So we have f of x, which is just a fancy way of saying y. Again, f of x equals our m, negative 2, x plus b. Okay. So again, we are just going to pick one of our points to substitute into our problem. Okay. So we have, I am going to substitute 1, 9. That's the one that I picked. If you use negative 215, that's fine. You will get to the same answer. So to do that, that is my x value. This is my y value, which is, guys, just our f of x value. So instead of y, I have f of x. So that is, whoops, sorry, guys. So instead of f of x, I have 9 equals negative 2 times x, which is 1, plus b. To solve for this, I just need to go ahead and start solving. So 9 equals negative 2 times 1, which is negative 2, plus 1, or plus b, I'm sorry. Add 2 to both sides to get b all by itself. I get 11 equals b, so my b is 11. Now I have both pieces of information that I need. So I have y equals my m, which is negative 2, x plus b, which is 11. That is my final equation here. All right, so this one is a story problem. So we're going to use the information from the article. So this article over here about the circulation of Sunday newspapers. We have 3 different problems that we need to solve. So here it says from 1970 to 2000, the number of Sunday newspapers in circulation increased at a constant rate of 11.8 per year. In 1997, there were 903 in circulation. So from 1997, we were at 903 newspapers. Our first question asks us how many Sunday newspapers were in circulation in 1970. So in 1970, that is 23 years before, I don't know why I said 3, sorry, 27 years before 1997. We are trying to figure out how many newspapers are here. Well, we know that it's at a constant rate of 11.8. So 27 years times 11.8 will tell us how many less newspapers we had in 1970 because it's saying that it was increasing. So if we do 27 times 11.8, see, that is going to give us 318.6. So that is 318.6 less. So I'm going to subtract 318.6 and I get 584.4 newspapers in 1970. So that is our answer to A, 584.4. 8 is really ugly. So second one asks us to write an equation. So whenever I do this, we are doing y equals mx plus b. So y equals, guys, slope is our constant rate. So that's 11.8. And our b is where we started in 1970. I always think of b, did it again. B as our starting point, which was 584.4. So there is my equation. That is our starting point at 584.4. So in 2000, that is 30 years past 1970, where X is years we could do this equation. 11.8 times